Please share. Okay. Guys, is my screen visible to all? Can I get a thumbs up, please? Okay, great. Yeah. Um, I'll just share my slides. Hello everyone. Good morning. My name is Moksha, and I'll be the trainer for this course. So, I have a overall experience of 15 plus years in IT industry. So, and I've also worked in both the service based and product based company. So, I'll be taking you through this course, and I've already sent out a poll just to understand like how many of you are from an IT background and how many of you are from non-IT background. And based on the poll results, I could see that around 30 to 40 percentage of folks are from non-IT. So this is just to see like how we can tailor this course and see. So since there are some of folks who are very new to this, so we will. Go a little slow so that we're all in the same page. So, folks from IT background, please bear with us. So, yeah, so that's a quick introduction about myself. And so today is going to be our introduction class, right? So, we'll go over the syllabus to see what all we'll be covering as part of this course and what additional benefits you have at the end of the session. We do have a surprise for you at the end where we have added few more topics to be covered as part of this curriculum. So we'll go over one by one. um, if there are any questions, please feel free to post your questions in the chat box, and or have it noted down. So since it's an introduction class, we'll just give a quick overview of our course, and probably at the end of the course, like we can go over your questions. Okay. Yeah. So just to quickly get started, so as part of this course, for Playwright automation, I think the programming language that we are planning to include would be JavaScript and TypeScript. So JavaScript, as you all know, it's basically a programming language that makes your website come alive, right? So consider HTML is like a structure of your house, and CSS is the paint and decoration, and JavaScript is the electricity that adds life and functionality to your website. All right. So some of the examples that you could think of, when you fill a login form, right, and it tells you that your password does not meet the required, I mean, your password is too short, or it doesn't meet the criteria where it has to have its special characters, right, without you refreshing the page. So all this on the back end is basically your JavaScript, and when you click a button, you see a pop-up that's coming up, right? So that's also a JavaScript. And when there is a content update, right, the notification of your live scores, right, how do you get notified? So what runs on the back end, right? It's all JavaScript. Okay. So so basically JavaScript helps website response to your user actions instantly. Okay. So earlier, JavaScript worked only inside the browsers like Google Chrome, but now with tools like Node.js, JavaScript can run on servers, meaning it can handle both the backend and the front end logic as well. Since it's more flexible and it has a huge community, so JavaScript is almost used everywhere in the modern web development. Okay. So some of the real-time examples that you could say we can consider is say there is a post in Instagram and you just click on the heart button, right? It automatically turns to red, right? Instantly, right? So that is a JavaScript. And when you use your Amazon web application, right, you can see you can add items to your cart, and you can dynamically, I mean, it the moment you add something, it dynamically shows that you have added two items, and so all this is JavaScript. And some of the auto suggestions, right, when you try to search something in Google search, right, so you see some auto suggestions popping up, right, when you give some keywords or hint, right. So all those are some of the examples where JavaScript is working on the back end in a real time scenario. So, as part of this curriculum, as part of this course, we will be covering the basics of JavaScript. So, these are some of the topics we would be covering. We'll give you an introduction to JavaScript. We will go over the history and evolution of that. And we'll also work on setting up the environment. Like you will be setting up your own environment. And then we'll get an understanding on what are variables and data types in JavaScript, and we'll look into the conditional statements, looping statements. Then we'll go over the understanding of arrays and array functions, strings and string methods. And following that, we will also look into what are functions in JavaScript. We will go over the OOPS concept as well. And then we'll look into what are callback functions, synchronous versus asynchronous JavaScript, and most importantly, error handling in JavaScript. So these are some of the topics that we would be covering as part of your understanding the programming language JavaScript. So next comes your TypeScript. So TypeScript is basically, you call it is not a separate programming language, but it is basically an advanced version of JavaScript. Okay. So the main difference is that TypeScript actually adds rules to your JavaScript. So in JavaScript, you can write a code freely, but sometimes that leads to mistakes, right? So TypeScript helps catch those mistakes early, before the code starts to run. Okay. So for example, in JavaScript, you can do something like, say you define a variable where you have to pass the date. Okay. Say there is a variable called date, and in that you are passing the current day's date. So there are certain restrictions, right? It should be in the format, it should be an integer, and you define a format, right? It has to be hours, minutes, and second. I mean, sorry, the month, year, and day, right? So something like that you defined, right? So even so this is where your TypeScript comes into the picture. Okay. So it always defined that this field has to accept an integer, and it has to be in certain format. Okay. So TypeScript basically does that, it defines rules to your JavaScript. So in JavaScript, you try to write a code to develop a field called date, but you add some certain restrictions or rules to that particular function, where you define that it has to be in certain format, it can accept only certain inputs. Okay. So that is where your TypeScript plays a role, and when it doesn't meet the expectation, it is going to show you an error. Okay. So you can just imagine like JavaScript is like writing with a pen, you can write anything. Okay. But TypeScript is like filling a form, so you have to follow a certain structure, and it has to abide with the rules. Okay. And some of the other examples that real time examples that you could consider is, imagine you're booking a train ticket. So you have to enter the correct details in the right format. You have to specify the age as a number, the date in a particular format, and so on. Right? So that validation is similar to what TypeScript does it in your code. Okay. And also, one more thing to note down is browsers don't directly understand TypeScript. So TypeScript is converted to JavaScript before you run. Okay. And TypeScript also helps developers write a safer code, especially for large and complex applications. And consider some examples, right? Your banking apps, right? You can't afford to have wrong data types, right? So TypeScript helps avoid such bugs in your banking applications. And say you are working in a large team, and there are many developers working on the same code. So TypeScript ensures that everyone follows the same structure of writing your code. And some other places where TypeScript can be considered would be like, consider your apps like dashboards or e-commerce platforms and all. Okay, so all these benefit from TypeScript. So yeah, so in short, TypeScript is a JavaScript with safety and structure. Okay, it's not a separate programming language, but it's a tightened version of your JavaScript. So as part of TypeScript, we'll be, I just gave you a quick introduction of what is TypeScript. So along with that, you will be learning these topics as well around type annotations, variable declarations, basic data types, and type inference. And then we will also look into the classes, constructors and methods, inheritance and polymorphism, access modifiers. And then we will look into the interfaces, properties and methods. Then we'll also look into what are namespaces, namespaces using multiple files. We'll also cover topics around the modules, your import and export modules. And then we'll also be covering the generic functions and generic classes. Yeah. So these are pretty much that we would be covering as part of the TypeScript. And then comes your automation. So we would be covering your REST API automation as well. You will get an understanding on what is a how we do the manual testing using the Postman collections. We will be we'll be running some tests around the sending some API request, and we'll be monitoring the response. And we'll give you some insights on what is an API testing, a role of API testing in your test automation strategy. And then we'll give you the difference between an API testing and a UI testing. So why did we go with Playwright for API automation? And then covering some HTTP methods like get, post, put, delete, patch. So all these are some of the HTTP methods that we would be covering. And then we will be giving you an understanding of what are the status codes. Okay, so the different status codes. And then like you will get an understanding of what are headers, request body, response body. And then last would be your JSON and URL encoded data. So these are some of the topics that we would be covering for the REST API automation using Playwright. So moving on to the next topic that we would be covering as part of your course would be the Playwright. So Playwright is a tool that helps us automatically test websites. Instead of you manually opening a browser, clicking the buttons, and checking if everything is working fine, right? So Playwright can do all this for us. So you don't have to do all this manually. So you build some UI using the JavaScript, and you want to have some test automated to evaluate your UI that you have developed. Okay, so that is where Playwright comes into picture. So you can think of Playwright like a robot that uses a website just like a real user. Okay. So it can open a browser, go to the website, enter the username and password, then click the login button, check if the login was successful. So all this happens automatically. So instead of you testing the same thing again and again manually, so we write a script once and Playwright runs it anytime we want it. Okay, so Playwright basically works with browser like Chrome, Firefox, and Safari. So we can test it if our application works everywhere. It is browser compatible. Okay, and it's like you don't have to run the same test on all the browsers, and you don't have to run this test on a daily basis. So you don't want to manually do all this, right? So Playwright is going to do that job for you. And another important point is that it supports multiple languages like JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, Java, and C Sharp. So, as part of this course, we would be running some tests with Playwright using the programming languages mainly on JavaScript and TypeScript. But it depends on the background, right? If you're comfortable with any other programming language, like you can prefer to have your Playwright automation done through that. So in simple terms, right, so Playwright helps us test our applications faster and see if it's more accurate and with without basically without any manual effort. Like it takes care of everything. And some of the real time examples that you can think of is, imagine you are testing a login page. You developed a login page in a UI, and you have to run some test. You have to run some test where you have to manually run through it 50 times or so. So just imagine the effort that's required when you have to manually test your login page with the different combinations, right? So Playwright can do it in seconds for you. Okay. And say you are developed a shopping website, and what is important for a shopping website, right? It's basically the items that you add to the cart, and most importantly the payment, right? The payment functionality should work as expected. So you have to ensure that your shopping website is stable. So how do you test that? You cannot manually go and run test every day, right? So it's easier when you have things automated using Playwright, where it takes care of checking all the important functionalities for your shopping website and make sure it's working. So yeah, so these are some of the examples that you could consider for this. And Playwright is basically like a robot tester that behaves exactly like a real user. Okay. So these are some of the features of Playwright with JavaScript and TypeScript that you will be coming across during our sessions. So one is like the cross-browser testing. So Playwright allows you to run tests on multiple browsers. Like I said, it is browser compatible. Like you can run your tests in Chrome, Firefox, and WebKit. And then comes your headless mode. So you can run your test without launching a visible browser window. So okay, so it runs on the back end, and this enables us speed up our automation task. And the other feature is that it has the auto waiting support. So it automatically waits for elements to become available before interacting with them, so making your test more stable and reducing the need for manual waits. And most importantly is your parallel execution. So Playwright supports running multiple tests in parallel, so it improves the speeds of your test suite as well, and also reduces your time. And the last point would be your mobile emulation. So you can emulate your mobile devices and test web applications in different screen sizes and conditions. So it's not like you have to, it's restricted only to testing your websites, right? You can also test your applications in your mobile devices as well with different screen sizes. So, as part of the course for Playwright with JavaScript and TypeScript, like we'll be walking you through the Playwright installation. So, how you can work on Playwright for a simple browser launch. And then we will also work with CSS selectors, XPath locators, and then we'll be working with Dropbox with select option, and how do you handle radio buttons and checkboxes in Playwright. Then we'll also see how we can handle the dialog boxes and alert boxes. And then the last point would be with working with Windows handling with Playwright. So these are some of the topics that we would be covering as part of your Playwright understanding. And then following that, we also will be working with managing cookies for web testing. And then we'll be working with Playwright exception handling and storing elements in a list. We'll also be mastering Ajax handling with Playwright, and then we'll be automating web tables with Python Playwright. And we'll give you a complete guide on the file upload and download automation. And we'll also be covering some topics on the advanced Playwright tutorial, where we will do a video recording and capture screenshots in Playwright. So these are something that we would be covering as part of your Playwright understanding. So next comes your framework. So we have gone through the programming language here. So for our UI development, like we'll be considering, say this is just an example, right? So you are developing something in for a UI based web application. So you have written your code in JavaScript and TypeScript, and then you have also done the automation using Playwright for the UI that you have developed. So now comes your framework. So you have to build a testing framework for JavaScript or TypeScript. So the preferred framework would be a Mocha Chai. So I'll tell you why we go with this framework. Okay. So the reason that we opted to go with Mocha Chai is that, so we wanted to have a combination of JavaScript, TypeScript with Playwright, right? So using Mocha Chai, right, it gives you a modern, scalable, and maintainable test automation frameworks, and basically it aligns with our current web development practices. Okay, so basically your JavaScript or TypeScript is going to be it's developer friendly and it's also scalable. Okay, so using Playwright, it's going to make things powerful where it supports different browsers, and like it has some auto wait mechanism and other things, like you can handle parallel execution, cross browser testing, and other things. Okay, and Mocha is like a flexible test runner. Okay, so Mocha is basically a test runner. It is lightweight and it gives you the flexibility in structuring your test. Okay, and it also supports asynchronous testing very well, and it's very important for, which is very very important for your web automation. And it is also see the integration, it's very easy to integrate with your CI/CD pipelines as well. So that is something that we'll be covering next as part of your course. We will be looking into how you can build your own CI/CD pipelines. So integration, so you can consider Mocha as your basically your test runner. Okay, Mocha defines your test suits, your test cases, and everything. And Chai is basically your assertion library, so it helps you verify your code whether it behaves as expected. Okay, so think of Chai is like a tool that checks your results. So in short, right, so Mocha is like an engine that runs your test, and Chai is a tool that checks your results. Okay, so why do we use them together? Okay, so Mocha doesn't include assertions by default, so that is the reason that developers pair it with Chai. Okay, so together it is like Mocha would run your test and Chai would validate your results. So this is just to give you a quick introduction. So we will get in depth into this understanding of this framework once we start looking into this topic. Okay, and where all it is used, this Mocha Chai framework, right? It's mostly used where we do the API testing, where we do the backend testing using Node.js, and you can also consider using this in front end testing as well with tools like Selenium, Playwright, and Cypress. Okay, so that is all with respect to the framework. So we would be considering, after once we are done with our understanding of JavaScript and TypeScript, we will go over the automation using Playwright, and then we will build our own framework using Mocha Chai. And next comes your CI/CD. So this is something that's very important, that every automation tester should know, because it's more of a DevOps related practice. But it is good that the automation testers should also be aware of, because this is something that you come across when you work on your real time projects. Okay, so CI/CD is all about automating the process of building, testing, and releasing a software. Okay, so CI stands for continuous integration. So this means whenever a developer writes a code, right, and uploads it, say you commit your code using a version control like Git. Okay, so Git, for people who are not aware of Git, right, Git is like a version control. We'll be looking to the topic as well after this. So Git is basically your version control where you will commit your code. So you develop some code, you have to store it somewhere in the cloud or somewhere, right? So Git is a place where you commit your code, and that is where it has a version control. So for each commit that you do, you have a version map to that, and based on that, you can keep track of your code commits. Okay, so basically your CI stands for continuous integration. So it basically means that when a developer writes a code and commits his code to the Git, right, this system, that is continuous integration, this system will automatically check if your code is working fine by running some test cases. Okay, so instead of you waiting till the end and finding errors, we will be catching the issues a bit early. Okay, so one of the CI/CD, I mean, one of the tool that we'll be considering to use would be our Jenkins. Okay, so Jenkins is the tool that we'll be using to run the CI/CD workflow. Okay, so that is commonly used across organizations, and CD basically stands for your continuous delivery or deployment. So that means once your code passes all the tests, right, that you run through continuous integration, it can be automatically released or deployed to users without any manual effort. So the overall the flow looks like you write a code, you upload it, Jenkins is going to test automatically, and it is going to, if the test, whatever test it ran is a pass, or it is if there are no errors in your test execution, it's going to deploy it automatically. Okay, so CI/CD basically helps deliver the software faster with less error and less manual work. So you don't have to do anything. Your only job is to commit your code, and your pipeline is going to run the code for you, validating. By running some test, it is going to validate your code, and if things look good, it is going to deploy, okay, to your customer environment without any manual effort. So some of the real time examples that you can think of is, right, think about apps like Instagram or WhatsApp. Okay, they give you updates frequently, right? So in the backend, what do you think is running? So it's your CI/CD that helps release those updates smoothly. Okay, so whenever there is an upgrade, it goes to millions of people, right? So what happens on the back end, right? There is no manual effort where people are going to go and test if things are working fine. So the moment they build something, or when the moment they upgrade something, right, they enhance some feature in your Instagram or WhatsApp, right? So they are going to go through the CI/CD workflow, where it is going to deploy the new changes to the existing code base, run some test and see if things are stable, and it's going to be deployed to customer environment. So that is where we all receive an update asking us to go and upgrade or update our Instagram or WhatsApp with the latest feature. Okay, and one more thing is that, say in a project, if there are 10 developers who are working, okay, so CI ensures everyone's code works together without breaking. So that is an advantage here. So there are multiple developers working on the same code, and you have to ensure that now all the 10 members code are mapped correctly to the framework, and we do not have any break. Okay, we don't break the environment, and that is where your continuous integration comes into picture. So if there are 10 resources, the moment each resource commits their code, it's going to run some test on the backend and make sure that code didn't break the workflow. So that is somewhere you can consider CI/CD doing its job. And instead of you manually testing and deploying every time, right, CI/CD does it automatically in minutes for you. So manual effort. So if you see in all these, right, we are just reducing the manual effort, and that is where automation plays a major role here. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, the tools that you can consider for continuous integration and continuous delivery would be Jenkins. Okay, and basically your GitHub and Git acts as your version control. So in short, right, you can consider CI/CD is like an automatic kitchen. Okay, you put your ingredients, which is your code, and the machine is going to cook that for you. Basically, it will create bills with the test cases that you gave, and it's going to serve you the dish where it is going to do the deployment for you. And all this, imagine, without any manual effort. Okay, so as part of CI/CD, we will give you some insights on um, uh, how you can have your installation done. Install Jenkins on Windows machine, then how you can prepare your own project, configure your Jenkins jobs, and how you can generate reports in Jenkins. And finally, basically we'll give you the Jenkins job summary as well. So these are some of the topics that we would be covering as part of Jenkins. And then comes your source code management. So like I mentioned before, right, this is called as Git. Okay, Git is something like a source code management which has a version control. So basically your version control is, what do you mean by version control? Version control is a way where you can track the changes in your code over the period of time. Okay, let's say you're working on a file today, and tomorrow you make some changes. If something breaks, right, how will you go back to the previous working version? Okay, I'll just repeat whatever I said. So, say you're working on a file today, okay? Tomorrow you're making some changes. So, today when you committed the code, things were fine, all good. So, tomorrow you make some changes to the same code, and something breaks. So now you want to revert back to your previous version. How do you do that? So that is where your version control comes into picture. Okay, so Git is basically a tool that keeps track of every changes you make on your code. Okay, it also allows multiple people to work on the same project without overwriting each other's work. Okay, so you can do a commit and others can do a commit, and it every time you add a commit in Git, right? So it's like a source code repository where it is going to, you're going to feed all your code commits. Okay, and for each code commit it's going to create a version and it's going to maintain that. And if something breaks in the environment, it is easy for you to go and track to see which version was working fine and which version of commit broke your code. So that clarity you will be able to get using a Git. Okay, so you can make changes and save them, and your teammates can make some different changes. And basically what Git does is it will combine all your changes together in a safe manner. So if say imagine there are 20 people working on a framework, and you guys are committing on the same library, right? So Git ensures that all your code commits are version controlled, and it is merged safely without any conflicts. So it will let you know if say if I have done some changes and tomorrow you're making some changes to the same library. And so Git will let you know, like, there is already a change, you have to take a latest pull where you can get the latest changes, and then probably on top of my changes, like, you guys can add your changes. So it will not just like that combine your changes and my changes. Say we have a library file and we both are working on the same file. Okay, so I have done some changes, so Git ensures that you take a latest pull of my changes as well, and make sure you commit on top of that. Okay, so to avoid any conflicts, okay, otherwise it's going to mess up your code. So you go and directly go do a commit on the same file, I do my changes, so again your changes will be lost and mine will be lost when someone is trying to access the latest repo. So these are places where Git plays a major role. So Git is basically like a history tracker for your code base. Okay, so some of the real time examples that you can think of is, it's like your consider your Google Docs, right? It has a version history, so you can see who changed what and revert it at any point of time. And if you accidentally delete a code, right, Git helps you recover that code for you. And most importantly, say if there is a very big team in a project, okay, there are multiple people working on the same code, right, it will help resolve your conflicts, code conflicts, okay, unnecessary code conflicts. And yeah, basically you can consider Git as the tool that manages your version control, and GitHub is where your code is stored online. Okay, so basically you can just in one word I could say that Git helps us track, manage, and it will also help us safely collaborate on the code changes. So as part of this course we will be giving you a quick introduction of what is a Git and version control. We will do the Git setup and configuration as well. We will check how Git project initialization can be done, and we will go over the basic Git workflow, how you can work on different branches. Okay, remote repositories, how you can undo your changes that you have made on Git, and then how you can review the Git log and history to identify the changes in your code and the version as well. And then, most importantly, the conflict resolution. So, when there are code conflicts, when you commit your code, and if there are conflicts within your team, how we resolve those conflicts. Okay, so these are some of the topics that we are covering. And yeah, so apart from that, like, we will also be covering some of the AWS technologies as well. So we will give you some insights on what is an Amazon web service and what is the need for cloud computing compared to your on premise. And then we will also be looking into some of the some of the AWS services like IAM, which is your identity access management, then S3, then your Lambda. How do you manage with API gateways? How do you track the logs using CloudWatch? And then we will also give you some insights on what is an EC2 instance and what is a DynamoDB. So these are some of the basic AWS services that you should be aware of. So we will be covering these AWS services as well as part of your curriculum. And yeah, so apart from this, for the folks who have joined this particular batch, right? So we are planning to have a bonus module covered as well for you. So which is going to be related to your AI automation and the smart agents. Okay, so how we can build an AI driven automation using Playwright. So uh, yeah, so instead of you doing everything, right? So far whatever we mentioned was like you built an UI with all with a JavaScript as your programming language, and JavaScript, TypeScript, and then you try to automate it using Playwright, and then you would be monitoring the CI/CD pipeline, whatever version of code that you have committed using Git, right? And you will also build your Mocha framework as well with all these. So imagine that these some of these jobs are being done by your AI agents. Okay, so instead of you doing everything, imagine you have an AI intern who's going to do that for you. Okay, so this particular session, right, on the AI automation and smart agents, right? This is going to help you build a tool. I mean, build your what to say, bot or smart agents, right? AI agents, which is going to do that job for you. So basically, it does the you basically have to give the instructions. So basically, you can use the prompt engineering here, where you give your instructions, you just describe what you want. Okay, and basically the AI agent is going to take care of building your test plan, write a script for that, execute it, and also once if it fails, if there are any failures or if there are any changes that needs to be incorporated, like this AI agent is going to self heal. Basically, it is going to do the handle the changes that is required by itself. Okay, so like I mentioned here, we will be going over three topics. One is like the planner, which creates structured test plans using prompts. So you give a prompt, okay, and you tell what needs to be done. Okay, you tell it to, you just describe that test a login with valid and invalid user. So you build something. Okay, you're asking it to test the login feature with both valid and invalid users. So this will be the prompt that you're giving. And basically what AI does, this planner, right, it this AI creates the test test for thinking, like what needs to be tested as part of that. So it will break down into small steps, like you have to open a website, enter the username, give a valid username, give a valid password, or give an invalid username, invalid password, validate if there are any error messages that's popping up. So all these are some of the tests that this AI agents is going to build for you to cover the validation for your login page. Okay, so then it what it does is it will convert this thinking into your Playwright code. Okay, so basically you don't have to do anything, you just have to review and see whether it's writing the right code for you. So basically it writes a script for you and make sure it is structured, reusable, and it is stable enough. Okay, and then comes your execution phase, where it executes, like it executes your test cases and make sure all the tests are passing. And then comes your healer. So here your generator is going to convert your test plans into Playwright scripts, and healer is going to auto fix the failed test and broken locators. Say you have built a UI and there is some change in your locators. Okay, your XPath locators. So this AI agent is going to go and automatically go and rectify that. It will auto fix the failed test cases and ensures that it is being uh, it is being fixed with the latest changes. Okay, so in a regular automation, right? So what is the difference? How do you differentiate your traditional automation with your AI automation? So in traditional automation you write the scripts. Okay, and in AI automation you basically describe what is the intent, like what is it that is required for your testing. Okay, and then you debug the failures. You have to sit and debug for the scripts you have written, but your AI is going to suggest some fixes based on the failures. So it is going to debug the failures and it is also going to suggest you some fixes. Okay, and in your usual way it is very difficult to maintain. Correct, you write a script, you debug the failures, and you also have to maintain.
Okay, maintenance is very difficult here. But in AI automation, it is like you just describe the intent, what you want it to do, what you want your AI agent to do. Okay, and it is going to do that for you. And if something fails, it is going to suggest some fixes for those failures, and it is also going to self heal itself. I mean, if there are any changes in your UI in future, it is going to auto correct and fix it in your code as well. Okay, so basically we are moving from writing our test to describing what it has to do. Okay, so one thing to note here is in future, right, like testers will not be testers will not just write the code, but our job is only to design the intent, like what is our prompt plays a major role here. So you don't have to write the code, so that is going to be our future. We are not going to sit and write code, but basically we will just design what is our intent, what is required for us, and basically AI is going to do that for you. And most importantly, it's not, AI is definitely not going to replace the testers, but testers using AI will replace those who don't use that. Okay, and this is where Playwright meets AI and things are getting interesting. Okay, so yeah, so up we have almost come to the end of our session. So in this course, right, we'll be covering JavaScript and TypeScript fundamentals, followed by some hands-on on the automation using Playwright. We will also explore testing using Mocha framework, understand version control with Git, and learn how to integrate everything to CI/CD pipeline. So by the end of this course, right, you will have a complete understanding of building, testing, and deploying your modern automation framework. And yeah, definitely we will also cover the schedule as well on building your own AI agents which can do all these jobs for you. And once we complete this course, you will be getting a real time project to practice with whatever you have learned. You can apply those as well, and this will also help with all the concepts. Like you will also apply all the concepts you have learned with respect to the JavaScript, TypeScript, Playwright, Git, and CI/CD in a practical, hands-on way. And this is mostly going to be like a real project environment for you. And also during the session, we'll be getting started with our classes from tomorrow, right? So during the session, like you can feel free to ask any questions or clarify your doubts. So we'll make sure that everything is understood before we move to each and every topic. Okay, yeah, so I think that is all I have for the introduction. So I'll just stop share, and probably we can move on to our questions if there are any. Okay, so are there any questions? Guys, raise your hand if there are any. Like, we'll go with one by one.
Hi, ma'am. This is Kev. Very good morning.
Yes, Kate. Yeah, please.
You have explained about the only the web testing. We cannot test the APK like Android kind of using Playwright.
Can you repeat your question, please?
No, you have explained only the web according to the web testing. We cannot test the Android APK one using a Playwright. Mobile app testing.
Yeah, I don't think so. You can use Playwright to automate an Android APK because Playwright is mostly, I mean, it's basically designed to support automation for your web applications. Okay, and you can also do some mobile browser testing, but you cannot really automate your Android applications as such. So uh, Playwright currently doesn't support that. So Playwright is basically
Okay.
what you have to understand is it's basically designed for your web-based applications, and it's compatible with different browsers like Chrome and Firefox and all. But and it can also support mobile browser testing. It's not your mobile application as such. So basically, you would need your emulators, right? So you can test with web applications having an emulator, but you cannot test as it is. So any website inside your Android browsers, I think that can be tested, but you cannot test your APK as such.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Got it.
Thank you. Yes, Money.
I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I just have a question. See, we have already selenium in our market. So, what
Okay.
is the difference between selenium and playwright? So, what is there any additional advanced features in playwright or how it's working in the market?
Yeah, so basically, right, earlier like we were using selenium because I think the core difference is that selenium is bit older, okay, and playwright is something that's modern and currently being used in the market. It's widely being used in the market. So selenium also is like it is a standard tool that uses your WebDriver protocol to control your browsers. But I think in Playwright, one advantage is that since it's a modern tool, it directly controls your browser through your native APIs. Okay, so that is a key difference. Basically, Playwright is something that's currently being used in the market, and it has some differences as well. Like your Selenium uses WebDrivers, right? Basically, to communicate with your browsers, right? But Playwright doesn't have that need. Like it directly connects to your browser engines like Chrome, Firefox, and all. So you don't need a WebDriver to do things. Okay, and basically your Selenium, right? It needs browser-specific drivers as well, right? When you try to automate anything to Selenium, you need a WebDriver and you need a Chrome driver, your Gecko driver, and all. But in Playwright, you don't have a separate driver management as such. Okay, it directly connects to your browser engines, which is easier. It makes your work easier, right? And along with that, you can also consider the speed as well. So Selenium is a bit slow due to network calls, uh, right? Basically, the network calls that happens between a client and browser, and it also enables some flaky test as well. There could be some timing issues. You will have to increase your manual weights, so you'll have to review your code then very frequently to see if there are any timing issues. Basically, Selenium is kind of flaky as well. Like it is not as fast as Playwright if you see the compatibility, right? So Playwright is like you can have a faster execution, and also it has some built-in features for auto waiting and all. Okay, there are some built-in features like wait for elements. It will also and The main feature is that in Selenium, like you will have to manage all these timing issues and manual waits or other things. But in Playwright, it does that work for you in advance, right? It takes care of auto waiting and other things, and basically it enables a faster execution. That is the main thing. And in Selenium, you will also add weights like implicit and explicit weights. But here we don't have things as such in Playwright. And moreover, right, imagine you have multiple tabs. Okay, so handling multiple tabs and windows is a bit complex in Selenium if you see. So Playwright, it handles all this in a very clean way. Like it supports all multiple tabs, windows, and sessions, and there cannot be any conflicts. So managing multiple tabs and sessions through Playwright is a bit easier compared to others. And yeah, similarly for the browser support, like I mentioned, right, you need drivers to handle things in Selenium. So here Playwright does it everything. So Playwright is like an advanced version of Selenium, right? Earlier, like Selenium was something that was commonly used across many organizations, but right now I think Playwright is the one that is in the market, that is more feasible for automation. And if you see the language support also, right, I think Selenium, we it supports Java, Python, C Sharp, JavaScript, and all. But here I think here it supports additional languages, I guess. So in Playwright, we will also have the support for Python, Java, .NET as well. Okay, and basically the setup, right, what the setup is also very easy. Like in Selenium, you need to have your drivers. You need to make sure you have some configurations done for those drivers for enabling your automation. But in Playwright, it's very simple, right? You don't have to manage all these drivers, and so you just have to download it and you can see how it handles the browsers in a very easy manner. So these are some of the benefits that we could see. And Playwright is like the advanced version of Selenium. So Selenium is not being used very much currently. Like this is something that's universally used right now in the market. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So, I mean, the configuration where we are doing a web driver in Selenium that can be automated in Playwright, right? So,
Yes,
no
yes.
need to, yeah.
Yeah.
So, one more question. What about the defect management? Are you going to cover in this in this course uh, s- for the defect management?
Sorry, can you repeat your question? I didn't get it.
While doing execution, if we
Okay,
found
okay.
any defects,
Mm-hmm.
so how do we manage those defects? So, do we have
Okay.
tools for
Okay, okay, got your question. Yeah, I don't think we have that covered as part of the curriculum, but I can check out with the Bromo team and see if it is something that needs to be considered as part of the session, or is it covered as part of any other sessions? Like I can get back to you on this,
Yeah,
Mani.
it could be very easy. I mean, very helpful while working in live projects and all. So if we, I mean, we have our multiple tools for the defect management. So like Jira.
Correct, correct.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. We have not covered that as part of this course material, but definitely we can discuss and let you know, Mani, if this is part. This can be covered as part of the current sessions, or will that be a separate one? We can
yeah.
let you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all
Thank
from
you.
me.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Parani Vish, right? Yeah.
Hi. What are the hi? What are the prerequisites for this playwright testing? What are the prerequisites should we have, and the things we should need to learn for the playwright? May I know?
Yeah, so basically, you should be comfortable with any one of the programming language. So, as part of the curriculum, we have JavaScript or TypeScript, right? So, that is your major thing. So, you should have your programming language chosen for your Playwright automation. And the next thing is that you should also be aware of the programming concepts as well, basically your functions and loops as well. And then you should have an understanding of the HTML or CSS as well. So these are some of the prerequisites on a technical background. But apart from that, like we will be setting up the environment, right? You should have your Node.js also in place to get started with your Playwright. So I think those are some things that we'll be covering in our upcoming sessions, Parani Wish. But
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
yeah, basically you should have some understanding on the programming language, any one of the programming language. And then is where we do the setup, where you should have your code editor, where you can have your code written. And basically you should have all these in place. I think the setup part, I think we'll cover with as part of our upcoming sessions, like what are the prerequisites for getting started with your Playwright. But on a high level, like these are some things that you should be aware of.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So are there any other questions from anyone?
So if I don't have knowledge on selenium, is that fine to take a playwright?
Yes, yes, Shrikant, that should be totally fine. Yeah, we'll be covering with the basics. So it's good that you can directly get to know things in Playwright and try hands on around that. We don't
Yeah.
need Selenium to be
And
very.
the TypeScript or JavaScript part, like you will be coaching, or like should
Yes,
we?
yes. No, 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 no. We will take care of that. Like we will we will get started with the basics of JavaScript and TypeScript. So I think this session, right, this course will cover everything from the base. Like it's not that you should have some prior knowledge before you get started with this. So like as part of each and every sessions that we take, I think you will get to know the basics, and also we will have some practice questions as well for you guys to try on your own, so that you get a complete hold on that. So there is no prior I mean preparation that is required for this course.
Okay, and one more thing is like I have around 7+ years of experience into manual testing. So,
Okay.
um what sort of package or something I could expect, like directly getting into Playwright?
I think you will have to reach out to the placement team regarding this. Probably this is a question to the placement team.
No, I'm just wanting to know about the industry, like what's going on, like is it
Yes,
wide?
yes, Shrikant. Shrikant, I will talk to you personally about this. Okay, our team will reach you. Then I'll collect all the basic information like current CTC
Okay,
and overall relevant experience. Then I'll let you know about this. Okay.
yeah, okay.
Any other questions from anyone? Okay. Yeah, if there are no questions, I think we are good to wind up today's session. So thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.